Pull the value creation plan out of any PE-backed company in your portfolio. Ask 3 questions. How many initiatives have a named owner? One person, not a function, not a committee. How many have a dollar figure in this year's EBITDA bridge, not a target range, a number? How many have a quarter, one specific quarter, when that number hits the P&L? In most companies, the honest answer to all three, fewer than the plan suggests. The problem is not execution. The problem is design, and they require different responses. The assumption governing most PE-backed operating practice is this: a well-constructed value creation plan, approved by the IC, presented to management at close, will convert into execution across the hold period. Every party in the structure touches the plan, and because every party touches it, every party assumes another party is running it. The operating partner believes it's management's plan. Management believes it's the sponsor. The investment team believes it belongs to both. None of them are wrong. All of them are describing the same structural failure. Shared ownership of an operating plan is the functional equivalent of no ownership at all. The plan survives every board meeting. The execution does not. But the ownership problem is a symptom. The root cause is what the plan was actually designed to do. The value creation plan was not designed to run a company. It was designed to close a deal. The IC requires a plan that demonstrates thesis conviction, comprehensive, internally coherent, credible enough to justify the multiple. Those are communication requirements. They produce a communication artifact. For most of the last decade, that artifact was sufficient. When leverage was cheap and multiples expanded, a plan that stalled still produced a return. The financial engineering compensated for what operations failed to deliver. The plan did not need to run. The market ran it. The plan was always designed to close. The conditions that made a closing document sufficient have changed. The document has not. Returns are disappearing in ways that feel like execution failures, but are actually design failures. Two structural shifts remove the conditions that made an aspirational plan sufficient. The first is the removal of the financial subsidy. Operational improvement now carries a majority of value creation and exited deals. Revenue tailwinds are not compensating for execution gaps. The margin was to be manufactured. The margin has to be manufactured, which requires named owners, dollar figures, and delivery quarters that most value creation plans were never built to contain. The second is hold period extension. A plan written for a 4-year hold is a different document than what is required to govern a 6+ years across an environment that changes faster than the plan's review cadence. A closing document has a shelf life measured in quarters. An operating instrument has to be rebuilt as the environment changes. Nobody in the governance structure owns that rebuild, because the governance structure was designed to review the closing document, not to question whether it still exists in its current form. The consequence follows a sequence most boards have not formally traced. The plan is presented at close. By Q2 of year 1, the environment has shifted enough that several initiatives need to be re-examined. But there is no formal mechanism to do that without appearing to walk back the original commitment. So management manages towards the plan. The operating partner reports against it. The board moves to the next agenda item. The plan survives every board meeting. The execution does not. When execution stalls, the hold extends. When the hold extends, IRR decays, not through operational failure, but through the compounding cost of a management team optimizing against a plan that no longer reflects the environment. The plan that stalled in Q2 of year 1 is the return that never materialized in year 5. The consequence arrives at exit as a buyer who will not underwrite EBITDA improvements they cannot trace to a named owner, an auditable operation change, and a delivery date that precedes the transaction. The seller presents the EBITDA. The buyer asks for the accountability architecture underneath it. Most sellers don't have one because they're designed to produce it. Named owner, dollar figure, delivery quarter. Those are not just diagnostic questions. They are the difference between a closing document and an operating instrument. A closing document satisfies the IC. An operating instrument assigns accountability figure, a delivery date, and a formal mechanism to update the plan when the environment changes. The plan at most PE-backed companies is a closing document being governed as if it was an operating agreement. Nobody owns the gap between what the plan was designed to do and what the current environment requires. That is a board-level governance failure. The governance was designed to monitor the artifact. Nobody was assigned to question whether the artifact was still the right one. The mechanism is a distinction the board has not formally made. A closing document is evaluated for completeness and strategic coherence. An operating instrument is evaluated for named ownership, dollar and date commitments, and a relitigation cadence that allows the plan to respond to a changed environment. The board that has never distinguished between these two documents has never asked which one it is governing against. That question belongs on a board agenda as a governance conversation about whether the plan the organization is being held accountable to is the right kind of plan for the stage of the hold. This was never really about value creation plans. It was about the assumption underneath them, that a document designed to close a deal is also capable of governing operational accountability across 6 years in an environment that changes every 12 months. Those are different things, and the gap between them is traceable. In hold period extension and IRR decay, in the distance between what the seller presented and what the buyer will actually underwrite. Private equity built the financial infrastructure of value creation. It did not build the operating infrastructure. The value creation plan was the industry's attempt to fill that gap. It filled the reporting requirement. It did not fill the execution requirement. Every portfolio company has a value creation plan. Somewhere inside it is an initiative with no named owner, no dollar figure, and no delivery quarter. The uncomfortable part is not finding it. The uncomfortable part is that the plan was never designed to make it findable. My name is Preston Leahy. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.